سيد الحق أجمعين أبو القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
As I discussed last week, and as we looked at last week, one of the narrations from the book's 40 Hadiths by Imam Kumayl. Today we'll talk about the next hadith which the Sayyid talks about, and that hadith is related to the one we discussed last week. The one that we talked about last week was about pride and how we should stay away from having the disease of the soul in our hearts of pride, and how damaging and how dangerous this can be to a person, and not only to the person himself but to the people who are around him. Today, the next hadith which the Sayyid explains is about the concept of hasad, or about envy. And before I mention to you this hadith which is narrated by the Sayyid and what he explains and how he analyzes it, I'll tell you what hasad is, I'll tell you what envy is for the people that might not know the full context of it. The word literally translates to envy. However, the meaning of envy itself and the concept is of wishing the destruction on people for what they have. And it is considered an extreme level of behavior for the person who has envy or has hasad in their heart, because they enjoy the misery of other people and they wish in their hearts to cause and inflict misery on that person for what they have. And based on this definition, envy is the wishing of destruction of what others have, and for that person to wish what they have for himself. And the word hasad has been mentioned in the whole Quran about 4 times, as well as other related words to it. For example, in one verse of the Holy Quran, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that many of the people of the book are eager to turn you into disbelievers, to turn you into kuffar after your faith, out of their inner envy which they hold. And this was in relation to the Jews at the time who were envious of the spread of Islam, and they were envious of Rasulullah and the message in which he was promoting, which gathered so much traction. So the hadith itself, which Sayyid Khomeini explains and analyzes for us to understand better. As you know, the book 40 Hadith is about taking 40 hadiths from the literature of the Shia and explaining them in a way that everyday normal Shias can understand. The hadith which Shaykh al-Khomeini reports from Abu Abdullah, in this sense he's talking about Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam al-Sadiq narrates from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who has said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had addressed Musa ibn Imran in this way. And he said, O son of Imran, never be envious of people concerning the favours that I have conferred on them by my grace, and do not gloat at them, and do not succumb to your envious self. Indeed, the envious person is indignant at the bestowal of my favour, and contests my appointing of gifts among my creatures. Whoso is such, the person who is envious, he means, he neither belongs to me, nor do I belong to him. So, what this hadith states, to break it down very simply, is that it is important not to be envious, or not to hold hasad or envy in your heart, even if the temptation arises within you, even if you feel the envy inside you at someone or something which you perhaps are jealous of. The person who takes hold of this envy and lets it take over themselves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this person is not from one of his followers, and Allah does not approve of this person. There are numerous causes of hasad, there are numerous causes of envy which a person can have. And the main one is the opposite of what we discussed last week, of pride. The feeling of pride, the concept of Kibr, arises when a person feels inferior. When we look at Kibr, we see that a person who thinks about his own good deeds, he thinks about his own merits, he considers other people to lack these. He thinks that he is superior to them, and he is better than them, and that his merits and deeds are way above what those people could ever do. And when he feels this, there's a sense of elation, there's a sense of joy, a sense of rebelliousness which comes over that person. However, when we talk about hasad, for example, and we talk about the envy in which a person can have, this is when a person perceives other people to be more perfect than he is. He feels inferior, he feels dejection, he feels that I am not as good as this person because this person has this quality or this person possesses this thing. Some scholars like Allama Majlisi, they can find the causes of envy the root causes of envy into 7 different reasons. The first one is enmity or hostility. If a person feels hostile to someone because they don't like him, this can be one of the root causes of envy. Whenever that person has something beneficial or something positive, the person with envy will look at them and wish destruction on them and wish that goodness for himself. There's also when someone feels supremacy, when someone feels better. It might be the case that this person with envy anticipates the pride of the envied person on account of them having merit, on account of them having some form of knowledge, and not having the patience to put up with this knowledge, he then wishes the loss of those merits and knowledge upon that person. Of course, there's pride, as we just mentioned. There is wonder when a person with envy becomes puzzled, becomes confused, when they see the blessings that have been bestowed on someone else. The wonder overcomes them to such an extent where they have feelings of hasad within them, that they don't want this person to receive these blessings. They want to have it for themselves. There's fear as well. A person who has hasad is apprehensive, they are careful on the hindrance of the part of the person who is enjoying that advantage. There is the love of authority. And lastly, al-Tamimi says, there is the viciousness of a person's nature. The person who has a vicious nature, who has a hard heart, who is not softly spoken with people, they don't like to see other people enjoying any goodness. They don't like to see people receiving the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As you then know, hasad or envy is an extreme evil, and it is one of the deadliest diseases that a person's heart can endure. All of the other diseases which I've spoken about previously and which everyone already knows about, things like pride, things like jealousy, things like backbiting or riba, all of these are sins in themselves, but they produce other sins on top of them. And hasad is one of these sins, which is something which derives from other of these sins. Muhammad ibn Muslim reports from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam that he said, a man might be forgiven for something done when he is in a state of anger. If a person is angry and he does something bad, there's a chance he can be forgiven for this because there is a reason for him doing that action, which is anger. However, hasad devours the faith, just like fire devours wood. How do you start fire? It starts with wood. And when the fire starts to build, it takes over all of the wood and it turns it black. This is the exact same as how hasad turns the heart black. The more hasad you have, it slowly envelops your entire self. It becomes your entire personality, and all of a sudden, all that you can think of is about envy, about being jealous of other people and what they have. And this horrible quality which a person might end up having can make the heart very narrow. And the heart becomes grieved, the heart begins to become depressed, and your face turns grim. Your face has always got a constant frown on it because you don't know true happiness. You only know happiness in the form of wishing harm and destruction on other people. And this state of being envious all the time of people, it begins to extinguish the light of faith, the light of Iman in your heart. The person who is a man of faith, the person who is devout in their religion, has a hopeful attitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't feel despair. He doesn't feel as though all hope is lost. He's satisfied with the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has divided His blessings and His bounties amongst the people on earth. And he accepts that although he may not have as many blessings or worldly pleasures as other people may have bestowed upon them, he accepts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan for him, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best in how to divide this plan and how to distribute it amongst His creatures. However, the person who is filled with hasad, the person who is filled with envy, he becomes resentful of the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen his life to be. As mentioned in a hadith, the believer or the mu'min is not malicious, is not hard spoken, is not envious of other believers. He loves them no matter how many blessings or how few blessings they have. Whereas the envious person acts in an opposite manner. If someone has multiple blessings and a very good life, he becomes envious, he becomes jealous of the fact. A true mu'min is not possessed by the love of worldly, mundane things, cars, houses, money. Whereas the envious person becomes so traumatized, so afflicted with this sin due to his love of what? Not due to his love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but due to his love of the world. A mu'min has no fear, has no grief in his heart, except for that which is associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, the fears and the griefs of a person with hasad revolves around the person of whom he is jealous. The number one important thing is the person who he is jealous of, and he doesn't bear in mind what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said about the people who have these feelings. And I want to summarize this point just with a narration from Al-Kafi, where Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam says, be careful not to envy other people, because envy is the root of kufr. This shows how serious envy is. Everything which we talk about, we see today, we can see in people we know. We can see how some people are envious of other people. They want other people to fall down, whereas they want those blessings for themselves. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that this is the root of kufr. If you follow this path, then you leave the path of Islam. You leave the path in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set forward for you. Now the punishment of the grave is something which everyone knows. However, according to the ulama, the punishment of the grave and the darkness which comes with it is one of the truly evil and scary consequences of having this sin of envy. They say that the person who has hasad in his heart, or the person who has envy, is associated with spiritual tension. They have spiritual gloom. They do not see the blessings, the beautiful nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounties in this world, and not just in this world, but they are oppressed by pressure and darkness in the grave and in barzakh when they die. One condition in the grave depends on the spaciousness that a person has in their heart. If the sin, if the vice of envy is present in a person's heart, then the punishment which occurs to them after they pass away from this world is so severe and tormenting that I don't even have the courage to say it today. And the person who has this horrible trait, they don't only suffer in this life, they live a life of sadness, they live a life of depression in this world. In the hereafter, they will be helpless. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says that these will be wretched people. So how do we get rid of it? Imam Khomeini in his book 40 Hadiths, when he explains this horrible sin of envy, he doesn't just say this is envy, deal with it. He gives a solution on how to get rid of this from your heart. If someone, and they're sitting in this room and they know I have envy in my heart towards this person, but they want to get rid of it, how do they do so? There's two things. There's a theoretical solution and a practical solution. The Sayyid says, if you reflect upon this attitude which you have, and you reflect upon this behavior and the sin which is infested in your heart, if you reflect over it and you ponder over the tragedy of it and the negativity of it, then you can purge yourself and you can get rid of this sin and you can save your soul from all of the destructive effects which come with it. He says, don't think that any mental, moral or spiritual sin is not curable, because this is a false idea from Shaitan himself. And he wants you, when he puts this idea in your head, that there is no path, there is no escape for me to get rid of this sin. When the Shaitan, puts this idea into your head, he wants to keep you from treading onto the path of the hereafter. And he wants to frustrate all of your efforts in this world to rectify it and to reform yourself. As long as a man exists in this world, it is possible for him to transform all of his attributes. It is possible for him to transform his character into being someone who is known in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as being a righteous person. If, for example, a person has lived his entire life in sin, he drinks, he doesn't pray, he talks badly about people, he has hasad in his heart, what the Shaitan will come and do and say to him is that there is no way for you to stop this. You will be like this until you die. You already know your fate. Of course, this is one of the most dirty and scary tricks which Shaitan can put on people, because as you know, having despair is one of the forbidden things to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there is always a way for a person to come back, even if he has lived the most sinful life. However strong this person's bad habits might be, as long as he is alive in this world, he can do something to fix it. So that is the theoretical cure. What is the practical cure for a person who has hasad? There is a practical remedy for this hideous sin, and it consists of this. You need to try as forcibly as you can to be affectionate and to be positive and to be loving to the person that you have envy over. When you show affection, when you show love towards this person who you have hasad towards, your purpose should be to cure yourself from this disease. Inside, when you are trying to be nice to this person who you envy, inside you're going to feel really difficult. It's going to be a challenge. You're going to feel fake. It's going to seem as though you're putting on an act. However, you need to persist against this. You need to act against what is going on inside your mind, going on inside your heart, which is telling you to continue the envy. You need to honor that person. You need to respect him to his face, and you need to praise him. You need to see the good deeds in which that person does, and you need to concentrate only upon his good qualities. As a base rule, this is what Islam preaches as a whole. Day by day, if you start doing this towards a person who you have envy towards, the sin and the effect of the sin will become lessened. And you will become accustomed to not having this envy in your heart. And you will begin to look positively on others, whereas before you look negatively on them. So to conclude, envy or hasad is one of the most dangerous diseases of the souls. It's something which, as Imam Sadiq ﷺ says, is the root of kufr. It's something which can drag a person from being a mu'min who thinks he's doing good deeds into being one of the kuffar. And this is scary. However, there is always a remedy for it. That remedy is, first of all, to reflect. As the Holy Quran says, it is important for people to ponder over their actions. If they ponder and they think about what they are doing, inshallah, they can reflect and change themselves. So there is a cure for it. There is a way to stop the disease of hasad entering your hearts. And this can be done not only by reflecting, but by acting upon it and by showing affection, love and positivity to those who you have negativity towards. And lastly, as I mentioned last week and the week before, the devastation and the genocide of what is happening in Palestine and what is happening in Gaza is never ending. The crimes against humanity that the Zionists are committing every day against children, against women, amongst men, continues. Each day is a more heinous crime that is taking place against them. One day they blow up a hospital, the next day a school, the next day a university. Their crimes know no limits, and they're not afraid to go to the very extent of wiping out the entire Palestinian people and the entire Muslim Ummah as a whole, in fact, to get what they want. So as you sit here, the least that you can do is to use your actions, to use your voices, to oppose the forces of evil, and to stand with the people of truth, and to stand with the people of haqq. Inshallah, on Saturday there is a protest at the BBC building at 2 p.m, just by the River Clyde. It is your duty to then go and to stand there and to raise your voices as Muslim, as Shia, as humans, to go and to raise your voice against the oppression which is taking place. And this is the least that you can do. On Sunday at 7 p.m. in Ashley Street, there will be a panel discussion with shayukh, with youth. And I invite all of you to come and to listen to it, because they will provide you with answers on how you can help Palestine, how you can help Gaza, whilst you are living in this country. Make sure everyone attends. Make sure your children attend, because they are living in this country. You don't want them to be taken away and manipulated and brainwashed by the media and by all of the institutions which try and corrupt them. So keep, first and foremost, the people of Palestine in your du'as, in your prayers. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to the Muslims over the oppressors. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on all of the deceased and all of the shuhada. And we ask Allah to give victory to the mu'mineen and the mujahideen, and for all of the shuhada. And in honor of their memory, please read Surah Al-Fatiha after salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.